Hi friends, Russell West here, Monday Matters. I made a big mistake last week. It was Tuesday night. We were supposed to be having a collaborate. Well, I didn't have that in my calendar the same way. It showed up this weekend as this upcoming Tuesday, so my big mistake, and for those of you who are there, I do apologize. I will be in the online space tomorrow night. I think that's June the 2nd. At 6:30 Eastern Time. So feel free to join me, but I do apologize for those who showed up and you were ready. Again, it's just a Q&A time. If you have questions that you would like to get across, comments, or want to build some relationship in a brief amount of time, let's jump into it. I'm trying to keep these to about 20 minutes or so. So come ready, be selfish, come get what you need, and feel free to get out right afterwards. So it's come and go, about 20 minutes or so, starting tomorrow night. Another item, a homework, housekeeping item, the story notes form. Remember, I've uploaded a new one. It's called V2, and it's got a gray box at the top of it that says insert 3 to 5 sentences that respond to the professor's probe and provide the 2 citations. That's where you put it. Some are putting it below the form. Some are putting it inside of their thread. Great, but I'm looking for it on the form. And from this week forward, I will start taking points off to get your attention around that. So everybody got it? Let's make that adjustment. One form, feel free just to upload the form and say, hey folks, the good stuff's inside of my form, join my thread. Or feel free to use your critical section, the gray block, and copy it as the introduction of your form, and then leave us with your elevating question. Everybody, say it with me, elevating question. If your post doesn't end, your sponsored post doesn't end with an elevating question, you haven't yet got my gist, and I'm inviting you to develop dialogue with your colleagues. Okay? I'm not taking points for that one, but I do want to get your attention. It ain't all about you. Provoke, and then bring us back to the literature. The best kinds of provocative questions, say on page 36, I noticed this sort of thing. From my theological tradition, it sort of goes this way. I'd like to learn from a few others on how you think of these things. That's a great way to introduce a question. Or, hey, I read a different source on this and I was enlightened about it and I want to contribute to the friends. Hey, friends, why don't y'all poke at this YouTube thing and tell me what you think too? Just take lead. All right. Now, the first couple of weeks of class, I laid a few theoretical foundations. I tried to raise the question about reflexes, that some leadership training aims for the cognitive control. Master divinities kind of work that way. As for me, I want to be mastered by divinity, right? And if it's going to be mastered by divinity, it's going to reach down into your habitus, not just in your head. It's going to get down in your heart, through your hands. And it's going to, out of those hands, are going to present the hope in the world, right? Okay, well, that's what we're after here. At the reflex level, we've got to get this down in our bones so that you do different behaviors. Something comes out of you differently next week. That's what we're after here, right? Not merely born, but someone who's made, someone who's interacting with the materials of their lives and the materials of their situation, the materials of their teams. Okay, reflex. The week after that, I asked, what if you're the protagonist? What if there's an author and a finisher of our faith? What if you're an epistle read by others? What if there's a narrative structure and quality to life? Not dogmatic about it, but it's pretty noticeable, and lots of people who've studied this for a long, long time have noticed these archetypal patterns. Well, that stuff's not the Bible stuff. I'm not trying to make it the Bible stuff, but a lot of smart people have slowed down and asked, what are these similarities? And a lot of you have validated, wow, a lot of these similarities are found in my life as well. So we're going to continue playing with that all term long. Won't be dogmatic, not trying to create fights and arguments. Instead, I'm trying to see what is there. And when you find yourself in the soulful moment, when someone else is across from you and they're like, I don't know what comes next, this is when you get to say, this sounds like you're in a Gethsemane. Like there's a cave just beyond the veil here. There are other people who've come through caves. Indiana Jones went through a cave. Pinocchio went to a cave. Jonah went to something like a cave, belly of a well. The cave is there. So now you're relating to folks at the level of fear, and they will feel that you feel them. The way we do when we sit inside of theaters in a tier goes down our cheek. We're feeling it. We're identifying with that protagonist on the screen. I want you identifying with the protagonist that's sitting in front of you at the Starbucks when social distancing passes on the Zoom screen. Last week, beginning of Module 1, the leader above you, and we looked at Ian Graffoud as William Wilberforce feel his way into a kind of piety that was not merely vertical, but that kind of amazing grace was also horizontal, and it changed the world. He responded to a call to action. His habitus was being formed. One of my favorite moments in the film is the spiderweb moment, where he's looking and thinking about the meaning and the existence of things. That sort of mystical, something's calling and rising in me that's better than me and causing me to be better than myself. We read Clinton's language. With Clinton's language, we could start looking at what Wilberforce was going through. We've looked at Pascal's work about sacred wounds. Now, I know that Pascal and many others that I choose, quite honestly, are not going to be everybody's cup of tea in every single feature. I've read that in your critiques. I get it. I understand. I'm the one that picked the books. But I would rather pick a book that has the risk of a few pieces that provoke you to a wakefulness than to not have tools that get me into the conversation we need. So spit out the bones and focus on those pieces that you do not have. For example, if you don't have a methodology to help folks inside of their spiritual wounds, or you bring judgment to their spiritual wounds, like they're just merely complainers or something, then maybe you have not yet identified with the person across from you as the protagonist of the piece that they're going through. You see, churches do harm people. They are a part of the story that brings the conflict inside of people's lives. Read Romans chapter 12 and tell me that's not about a conflict story. The second half of Romans 12, the Renew Your Mind passage, is all about the difficulty of being in community. That's why you need those gifts. That's why you need to have the renewed mind and to think of yourself not more highly than you ought to, but the way that you have been formed according to the way Christ formed you. Check it out. Well, harms have happened. Wounds have happened. Survival happens. Surrenders and let goes happen. So that leads us to this week. This week you picked the film. You've been listening to the Above You. Let's hear about your Above You. You're going to pick a film. You'll do the same thing that we do, starting with the gray block up top. Next, the middle piece is where you'll introduce a film to us. And by the way, when I read it, I should be able to get the whole story there. So make sure you connect the dots so it feels like a film. Then you're going to tell us our story. What did that remind you of, especially in light of the probe this week? And this week's probe asks the question. Let me see if I can get it literally here. Ask the question, seldom are protagonists made without pain. Somebody say amen. What must you leave become your best self is what the full question is. Seldom are protagonists made without pain, like tests and conflict, differentiation, surrender, departure. So what must you leave? What must you surrender? What natural endings or necessary endings are being folded into your life right now, or have been folded along the way for you to become who you would become? We're going to finish the second half of Pascal. You're going to pick the film, and then you'll post your notes. Wednesday's our time mark for getting those up, and Saturday's our time mark for finishing our replies to everybody. All right, my friends, I'm loving what's inside of the space. Continue to build one another. I see you complimenting one another. That feels good. For people to know that their stuff's been read and that a peer has read the same things and have found insights or have taken comfort or courage or conviction from what you wrote. So talk to your peers and talk to me. Try to teach this class from your seat, and let's see what we all can do to respond to those above you calls and impulses and prompts. I'll see you in the classroom.